Hello everyone, I am Julian Morris of the Channel 5 News. In the headlines, a national tourism policy workshop carried for Wednesday believed to be critical for the country. A call for action to identify and report physical and financial abuse of senior citizens, and shifting demographics as more men make a living as hucksters. The details coming up.
In keeping with the Prime Minister's vision to make Dominica the first climate resilient country in the world, the government has taken a decision as of 1st January 2019 to ban all importation of styrofoam and single-use plastics.
The DAIC is in support of the government's decision to ban the use of single-use plastics in food service. This creates exciting opportunities for our businesses to source and distribute biodegradable products for our market. This is also a catalyst to spark interest in creating locally produced alternatives for the traditional plastics which harm our environment.
A number of local businesses have already begun to phase out traditional plastics and introduce new lines of biodegradable items for sale to the general public.
I created 100% Green in 2012, 6 years ago, because I was concerned about the level of littering in Dominica. That's why in 100% Green we offer a wide range of fully biodegradable products, material-based such as cornstarch, bagasse, paper and non-tree fibers. I'm very happy with the decision of banning plastic and styrofoam in Dominica, and I think it's the right path to embrace the goal of being the first climate resilient country in the world.
Cabinet has approved the application of 0% duty on alternative biodegradable products. They have also approved a 0% duty on reusable shopping bags with immediate effect.
These items are lids, cups, single-use containers, cutlery and drinking straws. The private sector has a corporate and moral responsibility to ensure that we conserve this nature island. A message from the Ministry of Environment, Climate Resilience, Disaster Management and Urban Renewal, and the Ministry of Tourism and Culture.
First up in the news, 40 key stakeholders will gather to chart the way forward for Dominica's tourism industry. Andrea Louis reports.
That's the aim of a national tourism policy workshop carried for the Fort Young Hotel on Wednesday. The workshop will be facilitated by the global tourism consultancy, Tourism Intelligence International.
The team of consultants will work with participating stakeholders to develop a future-oriented, market-driven and globally relevant national tourism policy that will ensure tourism benefits each and every Dominican. The National Tourism Policy Workshop will deploy the German goal-oriented project planning method, which is an interactive workshop technique that promises to involve all participating stakeholders. This German planning tool is a robust, effective, and state-of-the-art workshop moderation technique that helps groups to define clear objectives and design implementable and achievable strategies.
Director of Tourism and CEO of the Discover Dominica Authority, Colin Piper, says the National Tourism Policy Workshop is a critical initiative for the country.
The natural and cultural heritage resources that make up the foundation for tourism in Dominica are fragile and irreplaceable. It is therefore essential that tourism development be carefully planned and managed. We know too well the effects that natural disasters such as Hurricane Maria has had on the destination. Dominica is a nature island, and without its natural resources, there is no product to sell. Similarly, without the people of Dominica, tourism development will be impossible. Critical to the success of tourism in Dominica is the conservation of both cultural and natural resources. That local communities and the people of Dominica benefit and are truly involved in the planning and implementation of tourism.
The National Tourism Policy Workshop aims to develop the country's tourism sector in line with the government's vision for a climate-resilient country.
Over 100 Dominicans are being trained in the dying arts of shingling and stone laying. Here again is Andrea Louis.
Those are among the skills being developed on the site of the new Jungle Bay Resort and Spa in Monacoma, Soufriere. Owner of the resort, Sam Raphael, says close to 150 people are currently employed on the project, some of whom are from the wider CARICOM region.
I don't have the exact head count as we speak now, but maybe under 150, but not far from that. Total employees, most of them are from Dominica, most from the area. We do have a total of, I think, 24 CARICOM nationals that are here with specialty skills, specifically the hardwood that you see around. We brought some guys in from Guyana to help us out with that. And also we have some stonemasons that we brought to supplement our local folks from Haiti. So they are assisting, but by and large it's all Dominicans for the most part, with a few CARICOM nationals helping us to push.
Raphael says Dominicans on this project will be able to utilize these new skills and put them into practice in other parts of the country.
They are working side by side with our local semi-skilled and even skilled workers to pass on some of the skill. So you'll see them doing shingling, which is something, an old trade that, you know, people, I guess, forgot how to do here because it's not commonly done. But in keeping with the rustic feel, we either have the stone or the shingle look, and that we brought up some shingle guys, and they're working with some of our young local guys. So by the time, you know, later on this year, 2019, some of the local guys can be able to pick it up and you know, take it on as a skill to use in other parts of Dominica. The fine carpentry stuff, they're passing that on. Also the stone workers, when you will see some, I was looking at some of the laborers, the local laborers, working with some of the Haitian stone guys. So there's a lot of skills being exchanged here.
The Jungle Bay owner confirmed that when the first phase of the project opens, there will be a noticeable increase in the number of employees.
The first phase, we're probably going to have 75 permanent workers added to the number we have. So we're going to really peak in employment mid-year, going in that early part of the summer, where we're going to be adding about 75 people to our crew, and those are going to be the permanent Jungle Bay staff. And as we open the second phase, we're going to be adding more. So we expect maybe 120 permanent employees, 120, 130 permanent employees eventually to work at Jungle Bay. So that's a huge impact on the livelihood of this area.
Phase 1 of the new Jungle Bay Resort and Spa is scheduled to open on 1st June. Andrea Louis, Channel 5 News.
Prime Minister Skerrit has passionately defended his government's record of negotiations in the interest of the country. The Prime Minister did not take kindly to the opposition leaders challenging him about his leadership and his ability to effectively negotiate on the country's behalf.
And you saw it when you were sitting back in the gallery at the pledging conference in New York. You were, of course we negotiated this thing, of course. Of course, I went to Europe, I went to Europe. I spoke to Canada bilaterally. Yes. But of course, we have spent some, and some is available. We're spending it. Yes. Well, Linton, you don't understand anything, Linton. I have answered this question in Parliament. I'm going to get down to that business with you. Of course, go in Parliament. So, but you do not have the ability to negotiate for anything. You have no knowledge of anything where government and international affairs are concerned. Nothing. What you trust to do, instead of speaking to the world, when you are 100 million people, I am responding to you. You ask me questions, I'm responding to you. I'm addressing you. $100 million audience. When the leader of the opposition had the opportunity to speak to 100 million people, he went and he denigrated the country, Madam Speaker. And you went, but listen, my brother. Listen, my brother. You told all lies, according to the whole of Dominica and the whole of the world. You're mischievous, and you sought to You sought to destroy the economic opportunities of every Dominican man. What you said was garbage. What you said was garbage. And you will sleep with it, Madam Speaker.
Mr. Skerrit voiced his continuing contempt for the opposition leader's appearance on CBS's 60 Minutes program, a move which the Prime Minister sees as an attack on the country's citizenship by investment program.
It hurts me to understand that a man who is aspiring to be Prime Minister of Dominica would go and be so dangerous against his country in the international community. That's what it is. That's what it is. And you are one of a kind in the whole world, Madam Speaker. A dangerous person. And that's why the only friend you have is a bunch of terrorists called the Polisario. That's the only friend you have. And you must tell the Parliament, Madam Speaker.
Mr. Skerrit went on to say the international community stepped forward to assist Dominica post-Hurricane Maria because of its confidence in his administration.
I went to the United Kingdom and I sat in the government there, Madam Speaker, and I negotiated with them a package of assistance. I spoke to the Prime Minister of Canada directly by telephone. I went to the European Union, I went to the European Commission, and I met with the leadership there, Madam Speaker, after the hurricane. I went to Washington and the World Bank, and I spent a whole day at the World Bank negotiating with them because I told them I do not want only 60 million, I want 110 million. And we got it. Before I left, I told them I'm not coming to Washington for little money. And when we went there, I spent the whole day with them. They would give me a little sandwich at my lunch because we had no time for lunch. And I want to thank my friend at the World Bank. And we got help, and we've gotten promises of help because of our vision to create the world's first.
Can the member for Salisbury stop? Just one moment. Can the member for Salisbury stop not talking again?
And Madam Speaker, we came into Parliament last month to pass the Creed legislation, and the Canadians and the British have agreed to finance the operations of the Creed for the next 5 years. And people are not helping us because the hurricane hit us. They help us because the government, they can trust the government and the leadership of this country. And that we have articulated a vision that many thought that we were punching beyond our reach. And people admired that ability, that in the midst of a disaster, when your leadership was homeless, that you could think of such profound things and go to the United Nations in less than 4 days after the hurricane and to articulate a vision on the world stage. That's caught the attention of the world. Leadership, Madam Speaker.
Minister for Tourism Senator Robert Tong says the larger countries are simply imposing their will on smaller countries like Dominica, placing restrictions on the operation of the financial services sector. The minister believes the larger countries are simply imposing their will through legislative requirements on Dominica, making it harder for us to compete in the global marketplace.
The impetus is not based on a CBI program. It is based on the agenda of these OECD countries. And as the Prime Minister said, most times they don't impose these things on themselves. And if you look and you listen and you've read, and if the opposition really read those rules, they would see it's a matter of competition. So the same concessions that you give to some persons, they are saying now that these concessions are to the advantage, and as a result, they're going to impact you. And we know that when they impact you, the hardest way to impact a country is to impact on the ability to transact finances. And if you are blacklisted, just imagine you will no longer be able to transact. Imagine you have a business today and all you can do is accept cash transactions. You can clearly imagine the impact that it's going to have on you and on your business. So we have to ensure that even when you hear the opposition say all of these things, in the end they say they support it. But because of petty politics. They say all of these irrelevant things just to mislead you. But in the end, they know that these things are not being done because of a CBI program. They know it's not being done because we have done things wrong. It's just that because Big Brother, as we would say, wants to ensure that they have the majority of the money for themselves. And we have to ensure that we put things in place, and we have things in place. And I think the Caribbean has to, and the whole of CARICOM has to work together. And they have to ensure we work together in the best interest of all of our countries, because in the end, all of us will be impacted. They would rather see us as a slave plantations than as progressive countries moving forward.
What we need to do as Dominicans and CARICOM members is really come together and understand that if we go on the radio or the television and say any negative things about our countries in this region, we'll be hurting ourselves. You cannot want to burn down the house at any cost so that you can take over after, which will never happen. What we need to do is do our research, come in this honorable house, and really talk on the substantive matter. So what I would like to say there, we need to look at, one, we as a people focus on ensuring that Dominica is truly economically and politically independent by carving our niche and supporting when positive things come here to this honorable house.
Opposition members have supported legislative amendments brought before Parliament Monday to foster Dominica's compliance with international standards for the financial services sector. While opposition members contributed to lively debate on the legislative amendments brought before the House, in the end, they registered their support.
The statements that the Prime Minister came and made, the Minister of Finance, the supporting statements, Madam Speaker, they cannot be the only reasons why we are here, Madam Speaker. And let us note that the minister did say that other parliaments in the Caribbean have been meeting often on those bills, you know, often on doing it. So what happened to us here in Dominica? There is no need for us to meet often as well. There is no need for us to have a white paper on the matter. I mean, come on. We have been hit in 2015 by Tropical Storm Erika. We have been hit by Maria in 2017. I mean, now is the time to sit down and say, look, let us reform those sectors properly. Let us sit down and do what we have to do. No, I mean, Madam Speaker, we are talking about things that are being imposed on us. So if we sit and we have the proper consultation with the right stakeholders and with your parliamentary opposition, then you can come and say, well, look, we didn't have any bipartisan meeting. We are only getting things now. So, Madam Speaker, in closing, I will support all the amendments, Madam Speaker.
Most of the times when these international organizations bring those different international legislation, it's because they have done in-depth research as to what is going on. And therefore, one would realize if we are in these third world countries, and sometimes our systems that we put in place, the mechanisms that we put in place are not sound, it means it's easy for any of these illegal offshore banks to get into the system. And therefore, I strongly, and I will endorse these amendments, because it is better for us in the long run.
You are watching Channel 5 News. More after the break.
Imagine you have Hollywood at your command. Introducing Flow Evil. Anywhere you are.
Big girls don't scream hard like Halloween, make me feel alive.
There's a world of entertainment here, and you run the show. Flow Evil.
The physical and financial abuse of senior citizens continues to be a concern to the Ministry of Health and Social Services. These issues were again highlighted by an official of the Ministry of Social Services who appealed to a delegation from the French Foundation for help. The French Foundation has been discussing ways in which it can assist with the care of the elderly post-Hurricane Maria.
With the passage of Hurricane Maria, we find that there are a lot of persons who are still vulnerable. And those persons, they got damages in their homes, especially some of them, their roofs have been uncovered and they're still on the tarpaulin. And those persons would require the assistance as much as they can get to help to recover their homes. Some of the other problems they face as well in terms of abuse, elderly abuse. You know, some of them have children who did not really care or do not really care about them. And when they reach this stage, you know, they know that they have a little finance somewhere in the bank or something. They try to come and overpower and take the finances for themselves. So I do not know how your organization can help in that regard, if it's maybe some kind of public education or something and so on. Thank you.
So we have people here who are living in isolation, away from their families, and that's an extra pressure on elderly people in Dominica. You know my concern is with psychosocial support, but to be frank, we can't tell who has post-traumatic stress because we're still stressed. Okay, many of us have no roofs. We have hundreds of people still in unsatisfactory temporary accommodation, be it tents or shelters or rather ragged tarpaulins. We're still in need. Now, Roseau looks pretty good compared with the rest of the island. And when the tourists come, we're doing well to show them that we are resilient and we're trying to build back better. But we still have many people in need of building materials. We still have many people in need of assistance to build back their homes. We need houses for the people whose houses were blown away. We've done a good job at putting roofs back on where the roof is gone. There's been a good job done by international NGOs and the government of Dominica to help people get their roofs back on. But the people who are most vulnerable are even more vulnerable than they were. And we really need your help. My special project for you is that we need a shelter that's specially for elderly people, because our shelters are schools and people's homes and churches, and there's no special facility that is adapted for the elderly. And I would love us to have one in every community. I know that's a tall order, but let's start with one or two that are demonstrating how good they can be. One of the things that FARCS does is it sets the bar high for standard of care for the elderly. And we would like to see a model shelter for the elderly, that where people could be not just temporarily, but actually to the medium term. Because people, when their house is blown away, we're talking a year or 2 years before they can have a new house to go to.
There's been a call also for training for those caring for the elderly so they can recognize when these individuals are being abused. Some officials say there is reason to believe that seniors need to be protected, not just from their caretakers, but their own children. The head of one leading residential home for seniors says caretakers should not be afraid to report financial abuse of the elderly. General Secretary of the Dominica Hucksters Association is pleased with the changing demographics of local hucksters. Cecil Joseph says one way in which the composition of hucksters is changing is in the age of those involved in the trade. He pointed out that several young people are showing interest in the business.
A number of the older hucksters, they have, after Maria, they have decided not to come on. And so we've had 2 training programs and over 50 people participated. What was interesting is that 66% were males. We also noted that people who go to the college are also applying, which gives us we like that, because it means that they will be easier to respond to training and the improvements that are required.
Joseph is happy to see more men coming on board as hucksters since the demands and obligations of that type of work have shifted.
We've been here quite a while. In 1984, when we came in, it was 5% males and 95% females. What happened then was the huckster activity was principally retail. But in the market territories, the regulations have insisted on that hucksters should do wholesale and not retail. And that is one of the principal factors responsible for the change. It means that you're now selling larger quantities in packed boxes, which men are better able to handle than women. And traditionally, when you look at history, women do retailing.
As regards the total number of active hucksters, Joseph says it's difficult to disclose this information as the association is working on improving its data collection system.
I cannot tell you that yet because the stock, everything else is on the, we are still looking at it. We are still compiling. We are still compiling our records. So I'm not too sure. I'm not too sure how many have retired. There are some of them who went out of Ireland. They haven't returned. A few have gone to be with the Lord. So, but we have started a new database, and we put in much more information than previously.
And the Minister for Trade, Energy and Employment has sought to put in perspective the reasons why government was forced to pass several legislative amendments in Parliament on Monday. The bills included the Offshore Banking Act, International Business Companies Act, the Fiscal Incentives Act, and an act for the implementation of the obligations of Dominica arising under the Convention on Mutual Administrative Assistance in Tax Matters. Mr. Douglas says this is not the first time that the interests of small states like Dominica are coming into sharp conflict with that of the European Union, resulting in these small countries having to go back to the drawing board.
Because we lost our green gold, so to speak, bananas, which was generating tremendous economic activity and wealth in our small islands, our governments then had to be innovative and came up with areas where they thought we had a comparative advantage and went into the financial services sector. And that's how we got into the sector in the mid-90s, Madam Speaker. And so, again, the more developed countries, as the Prime Minister said, felt that that was taking away capital and funding and monies from their jurisdictions and putting it into our jurisdictions because of our innovation. And so they had to curb it because that was competing with their own economies. And that is what we're talking about here, Madam Speaker. That put simply, that is what it is, that the more developed countries believe that all countries must compete on a level playing field. And any law that you have in your country that seeks to give you an unfair advantage in the international community has to be removed. Pure and simple, in layman terms, that is what we are talking about. And we know that the world has become a global village right now, Madam Speaker. No country can operate in isolation.
When persons with TB sneeze or cough, healthy persons nearby breathe in the droplets and the bacteria can lodge in their lungs. People with weakened immune systems such as HIV/AIDS, alcohol and drug users, smokers, children, and the elderly are most susceptible. Persons with a cough should take precautions when in contact with persons in public places. Cover your mouth when sneezing and coughing. Visit your doctor or health center. You must complete your treatment. TB can be cured even with HIV. Be responsible. Help stop the spread of TB and HIV. Protect yourself and others.
To end the news, a look again at the headlines. A national tourism policy workshop carded for Wednesday believed to be critical for the country. A call for action to identify and report physical and financial abuse of senior citizens. And shifting demographics as more men are making a living from huckstering. Feel free to contact us at news@marpin2k4.com. You may access our past newscasts on our YouTube channel. On behalf of the production team, I am Julian Morris. Thank you for watching. Join us tomorrow.